Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matthew Wellens. I'm the NCP for Industry, Space, and the New European Bauhaus. Today I'm actually acting as NCP Mobility on behalf of my colleague Elias Frederiks. So first, before we go into the details of what mobility topics are open at the moment, I'd like to give a quick overview of what is the overarching vision for mobility in Horizon Europe. It's about sustainability, so green transport. It's about inclusiveness, so people are at the center. It's about, of course, competitiveness and most of all, safety of the transport system. And in order to achieve this vision, two elements are important here. One is automation and the other one is electrification. Now, if we're looking for funding opportunities in Horizon Europe for mobility, there are many different places where we can look. The main one is, of course, Pillar 2, the Societal Challenges pillar, and specifically in Cluster 5, which is Climate, Energy and Mobility. These are collaborative projects that need to be done as a team. We then have Pillar 1, of course, where the more academic fundamental research is, and there could be also opportunities for mobility research. Pillar 3 is on the opposite, more focused towards companies, startups, scale-ups, SMEs. And here we find some interesting opportunities for mobility within the EIT urban mobility. Additionally, we shouldn't forget partnerships, which are, as the word says, partnerships between the European Commission and other entities, which can be associations of private companies or other funding institutions. And the partnerships cover many different aspects of mobility. There's quite a few of them, as you can see on the list. The only one that has at the moment open calls is the one listed on the top, which is the Cooperative Connected Automated Mobility, or CCAM. We will talk at length about this in the later slides. We then have this new creation of Horizon Europe, which are the missions. There are 5 of them, and one of them is climate neutral and smart cities, where, of course, mobility plays a central role. Additionally, a relatively new player in Horizon Europe is the new European Bauhaus, which whose, let's say, role is to add a more aesthetics, cultural soul to the European Green Deal. And here also mobility plays a role. Now, let's focus on Cluster 5. And let's look at what subsections of Cluster 5 are there, and they're so-called destinations. There are 6 of these destinations, and 3 of them are relevant for mobility: Destination 2, 5, and 6. Destination 2 is cross-sectoral solutions for the climate transition, and as the word says, it's about cross-disciplinary technologies that also have an application in mobility, and specifically batteries are very important here, and there are some topics open for that. Destination 5 is focusing on research and innovation for the individual transport modes, and Destination 6 is about the way that all these different transport modes interact and work together in a seamless and safe fashion. Let's dig immediately into Destination 2, and particularly one part of it, which is the part related to the batteries, competitive, sustainable EU battery value chain. The aim here is to establish a world-leading, sustainable and circular European battery value chain. And the impacts that are looked for in this area are leadership in battery materials, particularly trying to get away from those critical raw materials that we struggle to get, cell design advances, manufacturing advances, and recycling of batteries. The application areas are both stationary, but also very much mobility applications. There are currently 3 topics open with deadline on the 5th of September 2024. If you're interested in any of these topics, it's very important to have a look at the partnership that is behind these topics, which is the Batteries for EU partnership. There is the link there. And on this website, you will find a lot of additional information, such as the members of this partnership, the strategic work that has been done in order to define these topics and what may come also after these topics. So it's very important to get an idea of the background of this research and innovation activities. The lower two topics on this slide are actually specifically focusing on mobility applications. And in general, I would say recyclability is a key element of all these topics, which look at advances in manufacturing processes, advances in materials, advances in size and weight properties of these battery cells. Okay, now I won't talk much about Destination 5 because currently there are no calls open, but it's just for the future when calls will be open again in this area. This is where research and innovation focusing on all the different transport modes will be focused. There are 5 sections here. One is for road transport, one for rail, one for aviation, and one for waterborne transport. The 5th one is about the impact of transport on environment and human health. There are also lots of partnerships here supporting the individual transport modes. So this is definitely of interest once calls will be open again. Destination 6 is about all these transport modes working together in a seamless way, both for passengers and for goods. There are 3 sections. The first one is the Connected, Cooperative and Automated Mobility, or CCAM. There is a partnership which is behind this section, and the topics there are basically have been proposed by this partnership. And the other 2 sections relate to quite similar topics, but are not part of the partnership. One is multimodal and sustainable transport systems for passengers and goods. And the 3rd one is about safety and resilience. A few more words about the CCAM concept. It's basically focusing on safety is a big element here because a lot of the vehicles here will be automated. So how do they behave in a safe way and in an integrated way? It's about the human-machine interface. It's about the traffic management system. It's about AI specifically and data management. But finally, it's also about demonstrators. And many of the topics will ask for validation tests in realistic environments. As I mentioned earlier, there is a co-programmed partnership behind this, which is the Connected, Cooperative and Automated Mobility Partnership. So there is a lot of information there on the website to find out who is behind and what is the strategic work that has been carried out before the topics were defined. Now let's look really at the topics, what is open. There are 5 topics of the CCAM partnership with deadline on the 5th of September 2024 and an overall budget of slightly above 50 million euros. 8 are the projects that are expected to be funded. It's a mix of research and innovation actions, and coordination and support actions. Without going into detail of what each of these topics are, there's a focus on control architectures on these vehicles that have to work together in a seamless way. So these control systems have to be updatable, upgradable on the spot in a safe way. There's also a focus on human-machine interface and, again, safety assurance frameworks. It's about how really to orchestrate all these vehicles in a safe way when they're all working together in a realistic environment. There's a focus on artificial intelligence in all this, and there's also one action, which is a coordination support action about knowledge transfer and expertise transfer within the different players in the CCAM partnership. The other topics which are not part of the CCAM partnership are also similarly focusing on those kind of areas. The first one here, for example, is about optimization of the network and traffic management and about how to get data from the infrastructures, and again, focusing both on passengers and goods. The second one is about scaling up those innovations from prototypes to really full scale in an affordable way so that we can still have a cost effectiveness there. There's one about digital solutions and how to monitor and improve the management of the transport infrastructures. There's one about policies and governance and maybe incentives on how to shape the future transport and mobility system. One specifically focusing on the safety and resilience of waterborne digital systems. So here we are looking at cybersecurity. Excuse me. The second last from the bottom is about resilience. So how do these integrated transport systems will behave in case of changes? These changes being both gradual, like could be a change in market conditions and the cost of one in electricity or whatever, and also sudden changes, such as it could be epidemics or also environmental disasters, for example. And the last one, a new framework to improve traffic safety culture in the EU. That's about road traffic, and it's about trying to understand what is influencing the behavior of people towards traffic safety and how this can be influenced, and how potentially pilot training courses could be designed in a way that this safety culture, traffic safety culture, could be changed. Now we talked about the missions, and specifically about the climate neutral and smart cities. Missions are a Horizon Europe invention, and they are instruments devised to reach very ambitious targets by 2030. Some of the biggest societal challenges. There's one about cancer, there's one about the oceans, and there's one about cities. Why cities? Because as it's mentioned there on the right, cities are the place where decarbonization strategies for energy, transport, buildings, and even industry and agriculture coexist and intersect. So a lot of things happen in cities, lots of people live there, and they're very good places where optimization can take place and improvements can take place. Now, the very ambitious target of this mission is to have 100 climate neutral cities by 2030. These cities have already been chosen. There's no Swiss cities there, but that doesn't mean that Swiss entities cannot participate in the work to make these 100 climate neutral cities achieve their target by 2030. Additionally, there can be more cities, of course, that can be used as test sites beyond these 100, and these can also be in Switzerland. So here we have 4 topics. There are 2 innovation actions, 1 research and innovation action, and 1 coordination and support action. The first one, which is rethinking urban spaces towards climate neutrality, it's about developing smart urban public space solutions for transport and energy integration. And co-design is an important element here, so we want to get people involved in the redesign with a final target of achieving climate neutrality. The second one is zero pollution cities. There are 3 targets here. One is to understand how to assess pollution exposure and also health impacts at regional and local levels. Try to understand the correlation between environmental quality in urban spaces and human health and well-being. And of course, finally, to try and improve the situation. The third one is mobility management plans and behavioral change. This is a coordination and support action, and this is about trying to understand what drives the choices of citizens in the context of mobility and how this can be changed and affected. Right, so the last one is about focusing on the periphery areas of cities, which are generally more problematic areas of cities, because that's where maybe there are less affluent areas, there can be more traffic, and the idea there is also through co-design and co-working to try and improve, find solutions to improve these cities from a holistic point of view, and specifically from an energy and mobility point of view. Now, the new European Bauhaus Initiative, named after the last century's European Bauhaus Initiative, is supposed to be the soul of the European Green Deal. So if the European Green Deal is the target in terms of sustainability, and this has to be achieved through research and innovation actions, measures, the Bauhaus adds this cultural and creative dimension to the European Green Deal. So as it's highlighted here in these three lobes, colored lobes, it's about sustainability, it's about inclusiveness, and it's about aesthetics. And the way to achieve that is through three, let's say, approaches. One is the participatory process, the transdisciplinary process approach, and a multi-level engagement, meaning both local, but also on a more global scale. There are three topics open at the moment, with deadline in September, and an overall budget of around 18 million euros and 5 expected funded projects. The first one and the third one are not so relevant to mobility, the first one being very much a construction material topic, and the last one being a database development kind of topic. But the middle one is about new governance models for the co-design and co-construction of public spaces in neighborhoods by communities. And here it's about co-design and co-construction. Public spaces and mobility, of course, plays a big role here. So there is actually, this is an interesting opportunity for mobility solutions, really practical solutions implemented on certain test locations. I mentioned about Pillar 3 and the European Institute of Innovation and Technology and its knowledge and innovation communities. The purpose of the EIT is to bring together innovators and industry, entrepreneurs and investors, graduates and employers. So it covers the whole scope, with the final aim of accelerating the transition to sustainable mobility. One of the kicks is actually the EIT Urban Mobility. And all these EIT kicks have various funding programs and calls. They're all very different. They vary in terms of specifications, requirements, eligibility conditions. So I really encourage you to have a look at the funding opportunities in the EIT Urban Mobility. And if you find something that is of interest to you, to get back in touch with us, and we can specify a bit better whether this is really the correct solution for you and whether you would be actually eligible for it as a Swiss entity. And that closes my presentation for today. I just want to show the general context for the mobility part of Horizon Europe. It's mobility@euresearch.ch. And the NCP for mobility, as I mentioned initially, is Dr. Elias Friedrichs. So just feel free to get in touch with him or with the mobility email address in case of any questions. I look forward to hearing from you.